Well, guys, it's happened. It's finally happened.
Dun dun dun.
So on this episode of the Warrior Lights podcast, we're going to talk about the big news of the day. On November 6th, 2018, we finally got our first band cards.
Banhammer.
So it's happened, man. So let's see. I'll show the site here. So we'll read it real quick. Final Fantasy TCG banned card decision. Banned cards. We have determined that the two cards below will be banned from standard constructed matches starting December 1st, 2018. Serial number 5-034C, Gesper, 5-040C, Thaumaturge. These two cards cannot be included in standard constructed decks. For title and limited formats, they can be used as usual. Reasons for the ban. 1. The low cost makes it easy to play them from the first turn. Number 2. Placing them onto the field forces players to immediately discard from their hands. Reason 3. Serial number Gesper can force players to discard every turn. Number 4, it's easy to play multiples of both Gesper and Thaumaturge because they have the standard unit icon. Therefore, both these cards make it possible for you to easily force players to discard their hands repeatedly. And then regarding the decision, and then they go through a more in-depth explanation on why they wanted to do this. Yeah, I mean, the reasons below are, I think, pretty standard. I think everyone's been kind of bitching about it for a while now.
And the primary reason I see here is people were complaining about this because it was anti-fun.
Right.
It's something like, I mean, yeah, sure, we'll just get it out of the way. Dodaluma isn't always fun to play against, but you still have your options to play against him. He doesn't take away your options. He just makes himself harder to kill or without repercussions. Like this, though, discard just in general, it's just anti-fun. And these cards made it too easy to get a huge advantage at the start of the game.
Yeah.
And not just a huge advantage, but it made your opponent have such a huge disadvantage at the start of the game.
Yeah, there's a lot of value. It's also funny that both these cards are common and like they're the most destructive. But I mean, you think that, this week forward, or this little monster. I guess with Gesper they thought it was going to be balanced because each person has to discard a card, but when the guy controlling Gesper has no hand, I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yep, and this is something that they could have seen coming ahead of time. They could have, should have, would have, but they could have made it so you can only discard, or you cannot use this ability if you have no cards in hand or something.
Sure.
Or there's a lot of hypotheticals that could balance it out, and I don't think that's a bad thing that there are options there, because they can easily release new cards in the future that kind of fit into this niche without being too anti-fun or too overpowered.
Right, and just kind of get away from the specific cards, but just the decision to do this, I think, was good. The way they handle it, it's like, all right, they identified two cards that were really bad and kind of unhealthy for the game as a whole, and they just sorted them out. Whereas Yu-Gi-Oh! That does use a banned list, and it's rotating. So they use it to shape the format, whereas currently Final Fantasy is still using set releases to shape their format. So I'm a big fan on how they handled this. And you know what? It's not going to mess with Worlds. If you're a World Championship player, you still got to deal with this, and you're good enough to deal with this. So that's good. You're not scrambling over the next month trying to sort out your decks and all that good stuff.
I'm a little concerned about what it's going to do to the future of the game. I would hate to see them chop out Minwu. I mean, maybe Minwu, Emperor. What was the other card I was talking about? Thisoya and Zemus probably. I mean, they're I don't know. I feel like now that you got the Noctis and this whole Cecil thing blowing up huge, which I'm going to do deck tech on soon, yay! And that card is ridiculously good, especially in these water EX builds, So it's just, it makes me wonder like what else they're gonna ban, and if this is just going to be the only reason. I mean, the only cards that are banned. I mean, it's a pretty obvious reason as to why they're banned, because you can drop 2 Thaumaturs and make your, you can pretty much make your opponent discard their entire hand in the first turn, and then they draw into the 2 cards, and you're like, hey, play whatever card, make you discard those 2, and like, I don't know. I mean, and like Scott was saying too, like there are always other ways around other cards. Like you got a Minwu, you pop an Archer on it, Sephiroth, the Hecatonchire, whatever. You got like Emperor, Odin, boom. Like, but like if you got no cards to play, then I don't know. Discard is just what I mean.
Right.
So I understand like why they did it. It's just like, also, why don't you just? I don't know.
Reading here, like. I like how they apologize for it. Like, look, guys,
Well, isn't that what ruined the last version of the game? Was ban lists?
I think in the last version there was only a very small handful in the chapter series that ever got banned. If I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere today that they only had like 4 cards banned. I feel like I read a list that had more than 4, but I could be wrong. But there was not a very large ban list. Right. And as of right now, there's only 3 cards banned. There are 2 cards banned in standard format, which is the aforementioned Gesper and Thaumaturge, and the only card banned from title format, which is what's her name from Final Fantasy VII. She reduces the cost of Cloud and Barret by 1, and since you can play multiples of her, it becomes too overpowering. Yeah, but just in that
chapters,
format.
Or that was in like.
No, that's in this format. Yep. Yeah, that's in the Opus series.
What's the card that did that?
It's a unique card. Jessie, yeah, it was Jessie. And like in title, you can play multiples of the named cards. So because of that special modifier on the format, she just became too powerful, because you could just throw down 4 of her on the field, and then all of a sudden, like all these clouds either cost 1 or 0 and stuff.
Yeah, I see.
Cool. But no, this is a good move for sure, and like. It destroys like the degenerate like part of the ice element, but ice is still strong. You still have mid-range ice, which reigned like supreme for a while. So
absolutely, yeah. The one thing I want to say straight out, I'm fine with this ban. I don't want to say I support it, because I was always hoping there would never be a ban, but I'm okay with it. I'm not against it. Right. So. One thing I did want to touch on would be the cons to this. Like Steve raised a very good point. You're worried about the future, but I think they did address this in their text, because they were just saying this is not going to be a regular thing, but you never know. It does kind of open the door a little bit. But the main con that I can see to this is just the overarching effects from banning these 2 cards, because there are many things they could have done. They could have limited these cards, or they could have said you can't use them both in the same deck or something, which is like, that's probably what I would have done myself. But I'm sure behind the scenes they tested it out a lot more than I have in my head, so they probably know what they're doing. But one thing that popped in my head earlier is, because I was like, what deck do I even run that uses Thaumaturge, and it was Vice Kings. And I was like, oh yeah, Thaumaturge is in Vice Kings, so it's going to make Vice Kings just a little bit weaker too. And
I mean, there are other
few things here
answers.
And there.
I mean, you can play Argus. That's the same cost, isn't it?
Yeah, and like it'll slot right in just fine. And this is, I guess, it's just the threat of banning cards in general is you got to be very careful about how you do it, because it might be overpowered or just completely unfun in certain scenarios, but it could be totally fair in others. And the decision to outright ban it just raises the question, could there have been other things done instead? And I personally don't think there could have been, other than like testing it to see if you just not playing them together would be good enough. But I'm sure they did that ahead of time anyway.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring up like probably like very good reasons on why these cards wouldn't have rotted. Is one, like probably the biggest reason, like that costs a lot of money, because then they have to reprint the cards, so they're not gonna rot it because they're not gonna reprint them. 2, like they would have been just such large erratas, like it's just not worth the effort. It's better off banning them and then making new cards to do what you wanted, essentially what these needed to do.
And especially like you said, Argath already exists, which is almost just the same as a Thaumaturge. Like, for all intents and purposes, it's the same as Thaumaturge. It's just, a lot of people are saying, why don't you just not make it a standard unit? Well, ta-da, we have Arga.
Yeah,
You know,
already have
that's
Arga.
your not standard unit.
And then,
Thaumaturge.
Flan is, I guess, like a non-broken version of Gesper. I mean, they don't do the same thing. They're both removed from the hand, but Flan's a more balanced way to go about having a monster to remove cards from your hand. Gesper,
and some people were talking about like Buckaboo as well. Like, they're similar
Buckaboo.
cards, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Gesper is just such a piece of shit, man. Like, rips a card out of your hand every turn. You know, if you're drawing another one, you're getting blasted out for 2 cards. And, you know, like, and even like if you run in Vikings, you can wait for the Viking to pop and blast that card out. And dude's fucking ass. Like, I'm glad Gesper's gone. Thermaturge's a lot less, but I'm really glad that Gesper's gone.
Okay, like the only thing that I'm worried about is just the future of the ban list, but like honestly, I feel like this balances the game a little bit more, and I feel like the game is gonna be more enjoyable. So people who are like playing in future tournaments, not necessarily like Worlds or anything like that, but they don't have to worry about constantly losing to Turbo Ice, because let's be honest, that deck's always the one that's in top. It's so
yeah, it has a really good presence. Like, granted, I've seen some people in the comments saying like it hasn't shown that much of a huge presence at big events. Like, it's often you see Ice close to the top, but you don't see like 50 different Ice decks. Right. You know, it's just the few people who run it tend to do well, and they have a point. But I think it's not so much it's not a good deck, so people don't run it. I think it's just
people want to
more
run
along
it
the lines of people don't run it because they don't want to play it. Yeah, because they don't like it, and so. I think that's one of the answers to that.
And now, if you want to run Ice, you'll just run mid-range and still have your fun. So that's...
And yeah, like, there's still plenty of discard in Ice, and there's going to be discard in the future. You know there is. And discard is just one of the things that isn't fun to play against. There's no counterplay to discard other than playing as best as you can, knowing it's coming. Like, you can try to play out your hand and do your best then, but you're still coming back from behind from the start, and you can try drawing cards, but to draw cards you have to play cards, and to play cards you have to have them in your hand. So it's not an easy counter.
Talking about being worried for the future, the thing that I'm not worried about is necessarily Square Enix himself going hog wild and kicking a bunch of cards out of the game. It's the community, people in the community just being loud every time they find a card that they don't like. Now that Square bans some cards, every time there's this card that a small group of people doesn't like, they just get real loud about it, and I just don't want to hear it. That's where
you don't want it to. You don't want the community to influence their decisions, like at that level. Actually, like, I'm sick and tired of fighting against Wall. Let's ban Wall. What do you mean? Let's ban Wall.
Yeah.
Get good.
And you raise a really good point, and something that Kageyama addressed at least just a little bit in his IGN article, which, some more news. IGN had an interview with Kageyama, and
Kotaku
it's nice to and Kotaku did an article too. So we're getting some decent mainstream press. And in the article, Kageyama was asked, have you ever made a card or changed a card based on community feedback? And he said, in no uncertain terms, essentially, absolutely not. He's like, we do appreciate people's feedback, but we will never, we never change cards mid-production, going into the new set. We never change things because people say, we want this, and we make it happen. They do it entirely internally. Right. And they don't, they take what people say and they try to, build what's going to be good cards, but it's not based on feedback from the fans. Yeah, however, this is something that it had, there obviously had to be huge amounts of feedback about Thaumaturge and Gesper, and seeing as how they banned this, but the second most complained about card I've seen is Dodaluma. They haven't touched Dodaluma yet, and they haven't done anything like that. And seeing as how Dodaluma decks are still good, but we don't really hear about him too much since
not
Opus
really,
7's
yeah.
come out. Like Opus 6 had some ways, like he was still annoying, but now that Opus 7 is here, I hardly see many people complain about him. It might just be me missing it, but Ice is still something that people were constantly complaining about. It was something that made people want to quit the game because it was just anti-fun.
Yeah, I think there was a good majority of people that didn't like this, and also this had a lot of data to show that this was oppressive. So I mean, I think it's a good move. You know, you just got to stitch the wound, you know, and try to stop as much bleeding. Like, and I get it, but no, it's cool, and I like the language down here. Like, they're just really, really nice about everything and apologetic, and I appreciate that. It's like, look, I understand it's a huge inconvenience to you guys, but you know, it needs to be done. And you know, if come to find out, you know, it really wasn't a problem, they can always just let them back into play.
Yeah, if they need to change their minds, they can.
Well, yeah, that's really exciting. Hopefully we don't have any more ban cards, because I like having all the cards available.
Me too. That's
then,
one of the things I like to brag about this game. Like, there are no there's no ban list. So.
Yeah, there's no. Well, I mean, we have a ban list, but we don't have. At this point, we still have nothing that regulates the format except for set releases.
Right.
You know, I mean, this was just out there to stop toxicity. You know, they weren't banning cards to regulate the format and to change play. They just wanted to make the game a little less toxic, and you know, I support that.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I warmed up to it like after we've been talking about it for a little bit. So I'm kind of happy they did it. So just again, still just a little worried about the future, but you know, I think this is a good move because Blake, you made that turbo discard deck.
Oh man.
Ooh.
Yeah, he made that the other
man.
day, and holy crap.
Oh my god.
I told you, man, like a fucking monkey could pilot that deck and win, you know.
Well, I'm a monkey, and Scott's a monkey because we can't pilot that.
Like it was cool because like in our small community, no one had made turbo discard yet, and then
I was thinking about it,
and then boom, Blake's like, hey, let's try it, and then all of it, like I just got face rolled like using a deck that I'm happy with, using a deck that I'm able to cover a lot of my bases with against turbo discard. It was just I had to throw my hands up and be like, I'm out of options here. There's absolutely nothing I can do at this point. Like at like 2 turns in, I was like, I can't do anything. Just continue to hit me with your 2 Thaumaturges and the Argath you have out there. Just keep swinging at me, I guess.
Yeah,
the only way I was able to way I was able to beat you those couple times that I did play against it was being able okay, let me just drop what I got in my hand now, and it's good enough to hold me through, and then it was good enough to like win me the game. But like they only have like once or twice, maybe like every other game you're like, you know all the good stuff you have in your hand.
I remember that one game we were playing, Scott. Katie like leaned over. She's like, "Oh, it's only been 5 minutes and you lost."
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, this deck is stupid.
It's really powerful, and
you're never gonna play it again. You're taking it apart already.
I'm not gonna play discard. I'll build a mid-range ice deck at this point.
Okay.
Because you know,
I like mid-range.
Mid-range just freezing, or
no? It's just
that's the deck with like the locks, orphan.
Gotcha.
All that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So freezing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's cool because you can
with a little discard.
Yeah, and you can modify. You can try to go heavier on the discard now, or you can try to, just really just do the dull freezing aspect with just a hint of discard. But it's going to make people have to look at ice a little differently for how they're going to build it, because ice is still viable. Mid-range ice is good. There's alternate ice decks, and I think this is going to make the meta at least a little bit healthier. Because people maybe now will want to try to run things that will lose to discard, but they'll be more willing to run them now, and because that's something that's on everybody's mind. It's like you got to prepare for ice when you're going to a tournament, even if there's only one person with ice. If you go up against them and lose, you're out. So
yeah,
right.
It was always on everybody's mind.
I remember putting a Lu into my very first Mono Lightning deck just because of that one time that we went to Latvia and got trashed by ice. I'm like, I hate ice. Yeah. I'm gonna have to build a deck to, that was a situation in itself.
So, with ice getting hit, we do have some good news in Opus 7 is that we've got some good fire cards.
Heck yeah, man. Ice
me.
is, I mean, fire is heating up, so to speak.
It's heating up,
Get
boys.
out.
That's the part of the
You know?
week, kids. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm so
You should
happy.
totally title this FFTCG is heating up with the new
Heating
fire
up.
start. It's heating up.
with
We're
Opus
banning
7.
ice. Oh my god.
The meta is finally thawing. But
Oh my god.
I'm on fire. Oh hey, there's another.
Oh.
Anyway,
I quit.
I'm very
I'm
happy.
no longer part of the community. I'm out, guys.
I'm gonna play Yu-Gi-Oh!
Sorry,
instead.
everybody.
I'm gonna go play.
I'm gonna go back to Naruto TCG.
Is that still a thing?
Well, I mean, people
He'll
are
make
buying
it.
some of my cards on
he'll bring it
eBay,
back.
so sort of.
Yeah. Fuck this. I'm playing Dragon Ball.
You know what? Get out.
Oh man.
Give me your cards.
But yeah. So we got a Jekt coming in. You know, Jekt. We know was coming. Man, he's proven. I think man, he's a solid card.
Yeah,
Jekt
very
is,
solid.
Everyone's going crazy over. Is it Lon? Lon, right? The other legendary.
Lon, yeah.
Yeah, that boy.
For his potential, yeah,
Board
he's
wipe, yeah.
potentially amazing, and I'm excited to see what comes of it.
He's gonna be so good. He's so easy to power up. You know, you get a Lunith on the field. You get Rain in the background. You have Lebro. So now he's at 3,000. He's 1,100.
I mean, shoot, Rain searches for Lon, and then he gets powered up from Rain.
Exactly.
So
And then you run a little bit of Water Vikings in there. That way you're drawing. You board wipe with it. So easy. And then you run that. What's that one card? Warmac.
Oh yes. The one.
oh,
Extra.
Manasvin Warmech.
Yeah.
I don't need like that's the cool part is like Manasvin Warmech is going to be great in the mono fire deck that he's going to go in, but it's not needed for Lon. Like I think Lon brings a lot of stuff to mono fire, a nice extra punch, but he's also going to be viable, I think, in dual colored decks.
Let me also talk about this. I just want to let everybody know that this was something that was figured out, which I guess is maybe has been talked about, but the new bomb, man,
Yeah, man.
9,000 to the one card, and then 4 across the board.
So what's the name of this card? What Warmech?
Manasvin Warmech, Manasvin, I think.
It's,
I think
it's a monster card from Final Fantasy 13.
What was it? Opus 5, I think.
Yeah, it came out in one of the decks. That was like where I started noticing it.
I
gotta do FFTCG. I'm just getting bosses here. Yeah, Manasvin Warmech 5-010C. He's a 2-cost monster, Job Annihilator. For Fire and Dull, choose one character. If it deals damage to a forward this turn, increase the damage by 2,000 instead.
Damn.
Yep, and that counts for every instance that they deal damage for this whole turn.
Then,
so for Bomb, it works for both the initial target and the rest of the board.
It works for saving.
Yep.
So wow.
It works for saving.
Yep. Exactly. Like it works for saving. It works great with what was the card? Machina. Works great with Machina.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about buffs to fire. I totally forgot about bombs. I don't know why, but bomb was like a huge fucking. But I like bomb a lot as a card.
Bomb's my favorite of the special forwards that came out because both the discard and his on-field ability is really useful. Not to say anything about the others, like Zoo's amazing and Coral's not as big of a deal as I thought it would be, but the other ones are still great. But Bomb is just it's nice. It does what fire does best: indiscriminate damage. Boom. Bomb goes boom.
I'm really excited to see what happens with fire. I know you're wanting to build a deck around Lon, and well, sort of. You're going to do your mono fire thing. I'm really excited to see what you're going to do with it because I was wanting to run him in my mono fire deck, but now you're like, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to focus on Final Fantasy 6 stuff. I'm really excited about that. I still think you should run Saban in that deck, but
Saban is a staple for mono fire, and I'm excited to see how mono fire evolves after this set because there's so many options right now for it. Like that's what they lacked before. Like it was like you're guaranteed to have Saban and Emperor Zonde, and maybe if they wanted to, they could have Vermilion Bird, let's see Zuyu, but usually it was Zonde or Zuyu, and Zonde almost always won out. So mono fire was always the same thing. And I mean, granted, mono lightning's similar to that in a certain aspect. You're going to see Estinian, you're going to see a Lua, you're going to see all Cid, like similar things over and over. But now I think mono fire might have more options than mono lightning just off the top of my head, like different ways for it to play. Still think Mono Lightning might be better, but it's Mono Fire is just so much better than it used to be, and that's just for the Mono Fire. Like Fire got a lot of great cards in this set. That's good for not just Mono Fire. The addition of Meath.
I was just about to bring that up. I'm like,
Meath
totally
is
forgot about
amazing.
Meath.
Yep, Meath is amazing. Lulu. I mean, shoot, Lulu. Everybody was looking at Final Fantasy X Guardians, and it didn't really turn out to be what people wanted it to be. But Lulu comes in, and she's just like, "Hey, throw me in whatever fire deck you want. Let's blow some shit up."
Yeah, no, solid cards for Fire. I mean, not like Fire's about to come and to start rolling all the tournaments, but like there's definitely a very good step for Fire to become viable, like just playable in general, because
yes,
it was just unfortunately just being played for fun and then in the past.
This is what Fire needed. It needed more options, more viable options, and we got a lot of them. I'm very, very happy with
Needed an identity, I would say the most. Like pretty much up until this point, like everything that Fire did, something did it better. Something else did it better, And now it has very unique cards, to its element. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah, and then we have old Noctis. He's the next big hyped up card right now.
He's got a lot of combo potential, that's for sure.
That's why we saw that big price spike in buyouts in Cecil. Like people are trying to jump on that bandwagon, try to get extra money out of it.
God, man, that's Cecil just perfect for that deck. That EX burst dropping is like, I saw Steve's been piloting the deck, and I've seen it in action, and wow. Well, I say pilot, he built most of that through his own cunning, and it's amazing. Steve, you want to talk about that? Before, he's going to be doing a deck tech later on, but you want to give us a little hint?
So essentially the combo is you can do I have two different types of deck with Noctis, and the same combo. I run it with other water, or I run it with lightning. So my lightning version of it, which I do prefer a little bit better, I haven't piloted that one yet, focuses around Gestalt Drive Lightning to pull your Odins from the graveyard and put them on top of your deck, and then you're using Fusoya to pop it off the top of your deck. You're going to do 7,000 damage from the Fusoya. You're going to do the break from the EX on Odin. Now Cecil's going to deal 5,000 damage or something, and Noctis is also going to deal 7,000 damage to something. You're going to discard 2 cards to save Noctis, and you just deal all this damage. Like, you pretty much can board away with it. So that's the lightning version of it. You run it with the new Seymour. You can use his special ability, get a ride for free. That's even more clearance. So that's the idea that I'm thinking with Lightning. Hopefully it's consistent. I haven't tested that one yet, but I did test a little bit of the Earth Water one, which is basically just a Water for Soya package. Pretty much, I played it against Blake last night, and
that was fun to see.
It's you run the same Noctis, Soya, Cecil, all in the same field, and you're almost the entire deck is running with EX Burst. So I run it with Porum. Because you get to stack, you can pull a card. You can see the top 2 cards. You can throw them at the bottom. I'm thinking about running it with a new Oracle from Opus 7. Allows you to see the top 2 cards. You can decide if you want to keep them on the top or the bottom of your deck. You can put them in whatever order you want. Really good at the EX Burst. And then of course your Infernal Summoner, which puts a water card on a water summon on the top of your deck. I am running a small Viking package in there too, so you search for either like a Leviathan or Vamprit. And then you EX with your
Great combos in there.
Yeah, you're both forced to break a card. You draw off of the Viking. There's a lot of draw power. I'm running Poo Poo. I'm running Moogle. It's really consistent with all that extra draw power. It just gives you more options to play. So it's working really well. I'm gonna do full deck tech and stuff with it probably tomorrow. I think I have all of it to do the Earth Water one. I don't have. I might actually have all of it for the Earth Lightning one too. So there will be 2 separate deck techs that I will put up on this channel. So look forward to that.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
and,
I'm excited to make them. I've never made them before.
It's pretty frustrating getting hit with a bunch of EX. So I was playing Scions. This was the first time I piloted the deck, and I don't know why I didn't think of this, but I should have been playing the Emblem and dog shit out of Wall.
Yeah.
Giving Eater Brain would have been a big
in there.
Big daddy.
No EX. Like pinging you for damage, and I don't have to worry about fucking EX burst.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're sitting here discarding them for CP.
Yeah, discarding for CP. I'm like, I want more Scions. That's really
No.
cool.
Do you keep in mind that only works on your turn, though?
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. And that is pretty cool with that Festoya deck. Don't need to worry about EX just on the opponent's turn.
Right.
So yeah, but anyway, yeah, no, it was really frustrating because every time you hit them for damage, you're turning over a fucking EX burst, and there ain't shit you could do about it. Like, you're gonna get busted in the head for something. Yeah.
And then take the thousands of points of damage off of the other cards that are activating because
Exactly.
you're taking damage. So it's fun. I was really proud of making those decks. They turned out really well. So
it's really interesting to see. It just kind of hit me. And I guess it's in Earth too, so it kind of fits in with Dodaluma. But Noctis and Cecil putting in together the heroic Cecil, like whenever you take damage, you deal damage. They're kind of like Dodaluma for when you take damage, because you hit, like you get hit, they hit them right back, and it's really pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a really interesting deck, and I can't wait for you to post a recipe on it and have that out there.
Well, I'd love to see how it would work in like a local qualifiers, or maybe we can take ourselves back to Dallas and we can see how it fares in a win box or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd love to see play it, see how it works in our community, and then bring it somewhere else, bigger audience.
Yeah. So I think you're on to something real strong there. And one thing I played last night was a mono win deck. I had a deck that I completely copied off of somebody else's deck tech videos, and it was like a Balthier deck using a bunch of ping damage. And whenever I played some Magic the Gathering, I loved cards that could ping for a damage or two. And here in this game, it's very different because you can't ping the player for damage. So I tried it out, didn't really work, so I had it just sitting there in my box, and just like haven't touched it. And now whenever I was going through the Opus 7 cards, I was like, hey, hold on a second. Let me switch some of these out. Let me throw in the, what was that, All Honolim, if I'm pronouncing that right, one of those. Yeah. And then the Yuri Chelinka package, throw in the Mother to search them out. And with changing just a few things, that deck was just one after the other, just pinging Blake like crazy. Being able to do so many really cool combos with it. I was very happy with just playing it for fun, and I think messing with it just a little bit to fine-tune it is going to make it a very viable deck.
Yeah, Mono Wind, I think, really got a nice little increase with Yuri, man. Yuri,
and
a Honolulu.
And Vada as well,
Vada,
being able
to the
4-drop, because like previously they just had 5-drops, right? Like you throw down the 5-drop, it reactivates 5 backups. Bart's and Connie Senna, and there were others. Like that's kind of a theme in wins, like reactivate so many that you paid for. But Vada being a 4-drop, 8K, it fits in perfectly with that format, and being able to reactivate all your backups. It just Mono Wind has gotten a lot of really nice things as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm trying to get everything together for Yuri stuff and make a little Mono Wind deck and mess around with that. So it's really exciting. Like a lot of exciting stuff in this set. Holy crap! What just happened?
Oh, did we lose Steve?
I think we did lose Steve.
Oh no. I'm sure he'll pop in soon. His internet's been kind of giving him problems. But yeah, so Mono Wind's been looking good. What from Lightning did you like, Blake?
Lightning? I mean, I don't know if there was anything from Lightning I really looked at. But,
okay. There was one card I was very excited about, and I think a lot of people caught on to it, is Zapped. Because Zapped fits in really well in a lot of decks that run some Lightning. Being able to, he counts as a monster in all situations, searches a Ramu when he dies. He fits in really well in Scions. Because he can be pulled back with Urianger, however you pronounce it, and it's pretty cool. I really like that card.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I mean, we're at about 35 minutes here, and Steve, I guess, died or whatever, so...
It happened.
Yeah. Apologize everyone for technical difficulties, but I mean, I think we really talked about everything we really wanted to talk about. At this point, we're just kind of rambling on. But we really appreciate everyone stopping by. I'll post a link to like the band and all this stuff down in the the description, and just be on the lookout for Steve's deck recipes for the Noctis stuff. All right, guys, y'all have a good
It's
one.
gonna be good. See you
Bye-bye.
later.